Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And boy, do I have an amazing guest for you today. Now, her name is Adrienne Greenwood. She is a powerhouse in the world of executive public relations. PR, guys, PR. How awesome is that? As the founder of Adrienne Greenwood Halls, a boutique executive PR agency, she has carved out a niche for herself in helping CEOs and business leaders identify and unleash their hidden Titan architect. And I know you guys are thinking, what is that? And we're going to get deep into that today. She helps you step into the spotlight and make their mark in their respective industries. I love how you use make your mark. Very clever,
mark, baby. We're aligned.
Totally. It has become a secret weapon to those leaders who have achieved remarkable success but remain largely unnoticed. Now, Adrienne's mission is to help these titans share their unique stories, inspire others with their journey, and position themselves as thought leaders in the industry and leave a lasting legacy. I love that. Adrienne's also an author of a book called Unleashing the Hidden Titan, Publicity Secrets for the Modern Business Leader. Oh, okay. We're going to have to talk about that too. Now, Adrienne, thank you, first of all, coming onto the show. I'm so looking forward to this episode.
Awesome. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited to share my experience with your audience, because I know it's a hot topic and I know it's a very misunderstood industry. I mean, using words like personal branding, or brand strategy or influencer, like these are all like really ambiguous terms that get thrown around. And I think people don't necessarily understand the difference between social media and, in public relations and, and how it benefits them, so I'm going to cover a lot of the most frequently asked questions about PR, right? When I am speaking to prospective clients for myself, the things that always come up, so I'm going to cover all that stuff for you guys as well. So yeah, let's
awesome. Look forward to it. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of PR, tell us a little bit about what your journey's been like, right? Because you didn't just wake up one day and poof, you had a PR agency, right? As much as we would like to think that's what happens, right? It doesn't. And it takes years to get to where you are today. So tell us a little bit about some of your ups and downs and what were you doing before to actually build the business that you have today?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's a kind of a roller coaster. So when I started out in my 20s, I actually have a degree in business and marketing communications, so brand strategy and corporate communications. I never really used it. I ended up actually going into cosmetics industry, sales. I ended up in a long sales career. I moved up the ranks in a couple of different industries, both in cosmetics, and then I went into security electronics, working for I was the director of sales for Canada for a security electronics company, so tech. So sales has really been my background. A few years ago, I took actually a business development role as a vice president of business development for a PR agency. It's a bigger agency out of Vegas. And all my years in sales, of course, I was on the front line. I was, an account exec. I was enrolling high ticket clients into this very high level PR program. And it was really just a gap in the market that I recognized. I've always had a passion for marketing, for selling, right? So this is really the thing, the nuance that I think is missed a lot in media and public relations is, what is the purpose of what we're doing? It's to convert more clients into your program, right?
Yes.
How do you do that? You build trust and credibility, right? Whether you're a one-on-one person doing sales, the first thing you need to build is trust and credibility, and then you share your product with them. So the reason we do PR is because it augments your trust and credibility factor, right? So I digress there for a second, but I recognized with a lot of these business leaders that I was speaking with, they are busy CEOs. They are busy innovators. They are technical people. They are leaders of industry, regardless of what niche. It really didn't matter. But the key issue that I always came across with was that we can do your PR for you. That's no problem. We can get you placed in publications. We can get you speaking spots on podcasts. We can get you out there. But what they needed so much more. There was so much more that in order for those things to be impactful, in order for those things to have a solid call to action and actually convert to sales, they needed a lot more of a consultative approach, and everyone was a little bit different. The other thing that I glaringly recognized, and I think a lot of your audience might recognize this in themselves, is that what do I market? Like, what am I marketing? Like, what is my zone of genius? And if you are one of many in a field that have a similar zone of genius, how do you set yourself apart? How do you differentiate that? And the glaring missing media asset that I recognized in most of these clients was they didn't have a book. And of course, I couldn't say, come back to me when you have a book, because my job was to get them in, right, to sell them on the program. And so I thought, I really need to fill this gap and help these entrepreneurs get all the tools and assets that they need in order to execute a successful publicity campaign. Does that make sense? I know I kind of I just unpacked the whole suitcase. I'm going to put it back together. Right. So I did fall into it. I was working for a big PR agency. I left the agency and I went out and garnered a bunch of experience working on different types of media offers. So I worked on a podcast productions, like similar to yours, book authorship, right? I was working on a totally different offer that to book authorship. So I was like, I'm getting all these tools in the toolbox, and years of obviously, as a business executive myself, right? I have a good sense of how to go to market. Okay. Those are sort of things that I already had those skills for. So it was now I have this whole toolbox to help my clients go to market. So not just get PR and press, but go to market with the right assets that are going to set them apart. Set them apart as the expert in their niche. And so that's what I did. I launched the Authority Accelerator, right, which has now morphed into the Titan Incubator. So I like the Titan Incubator because what ended up happening is just kind of a funny story. But so as I started to take on new clients, they were all so utterly different. I have one client that is a car innovator. He's a car designer. He's worked for Ferrari and Lamborghini and Porsche. And then he has an medical industrial hyperbolic chamber van that he designed. And he has and I can't talk about it yet because we're still in patent pending, but there is another whole, that's going to be a complete disruptor in the car world, which is why he reached out to me, he's getting into a position where he's ready to, get exposure and raise venture capital for this new car innovation that is completely revolutionary. And so
it's bigger than Tesla.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, yeah. Wow. I mean, Elon already had sorry, the sun is really washing me out here, but Elon, came at the Tesla with already a whole pile of, credibility going on. So he'll be more of a disruptor in the industry, I think, but it's very exciting. So getting to the purpose of this, painting this picture for you is, and this client of mine also has been writing a book, and it's kind of like his book is a kind of a Gonzo-esque, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas style memoir about his story on how he got into the design industry, his whole journey. it's kind of like a 3-part life story, and it's super fascinating. And it is a kind of little bit of drug fueled creativity. La, la, la. He's an amazing writer too. So like I'm like, this guy, he's like a Renaissance hidden titan. Mm-hmm. And when I say hidden titan, it's because these are unsung heroes, right? Mm-hmm. There are people who are kind of, you wouldn't hear about them. They're not like, social media masters of influence. They really are in their little, innovation labs, conjuring up the next greatest tech innovation or, disruptive product, right? So that's where I kind of came up with the hidden titan thing, because these people they need someone to shine a spotlight on them, and they have no idea how to do it for themselves, like really no idea how unique and how amazing they are. And so I hold that vision, for my clients. I see the full the full end game for them. Sometimes they don't even see for themselves. So it's really, really fun to be a part of these entrepreneurs' creative journey and like their coming out journey. So that's kind of how the archetypes sort of were birthed, right? Is just realizing that, like, that was one example, but then the full other spectrum is one of our clients is like a jujitsu celebrity, right? So if you're in the jujitsu world, you know who this guy is. He's also like kind of got the Renaissance thing, but he's like, because he's an artist, he approaches martial arts truly as an artist, not as an athlete.
Wow.
And then full other spectrum is we've got another one who I call like the Politico. I almost think he's CIA. I shouldn't say that. Let me just say that. I almost think he's CIA because he works with governments. He works with he spent years like in places like Iraq and Afghanistan,
wow.
Helping government and the private sector, big firms like Lockheed Martin. They would bring him in to kind of bridge the communication in society that has like fallen apart, right, because of war or some other crisis, right? So he helps companies develop their crisis response, right, but also to optimize the moment in these crises, Mm-hmm. So like a perfect example of that would be GM defense vehicles. Okay, they have a 10-year procurement process, but a war breaks out in Ukraine and they need vehicles now, right. But you've got a huge organization. So he helps companies navigate these situations. So these are completely like opposite ends of the spectrum clients, right? So I realize that they all come in with a very different archetype. I don't know if you've ever done a brand archetype on yourself.
So I would love for you to go through like what kind of archetypes have you come up with, and what do they all mean?
Yeah, well, they're based on the Jungian, Carl Jung's traditional archetype.
Okay.
Right, the hero's journey that starts with like the fool, right, the risk taker, and culminates with I can't remember the last, if they go in an order, but you have the magician, right? So someone who's like super imaginative and can pull anything out of the air. You have the creator. You have the caregiver. The person that's like the super empath. You have the connector, or that's kind of who I would describe as like the Politico. So there's 12 archetypes on the spectrum of the archetypes, and they're very different. The lover, right? The maverick. So a lot of the disruptors in industry, like the Elon Musks of the world or Richard Branson, would be mavericks, right? Like they just do two things totally differently than anybody else. They're
the disruptors of
they're the disruptors. Yeah. Well, no, I would know, because there is the rebel is different from the maverick, right? So there is the rebel. They're the ones that will, lead the charge on a social justice movement and be out there on the streets, throwing gas cans. I don't know. They're like the real rebel. So everyone is so unique, and we have to take a unique approach with all of our clients. But really what we help them do is really, they come to us. So, when somebody is really at that place where PR is they're ready for it, it's appropriate, like it's time for them, is when they really have either gotten to the top of their game, they've learned something, they have gone through their own hero's journey, they've had that transformational breakthrough, they have been able to develop some sort of process or way to articulate and communicate, how to solve a problem they see in the world. And this is often a conversation I'll have with people. And they're like, oh, well, I have this and it solves, and it does this and it does that. And it's got all these bells and whistles. And I said, yeah, but what is the problem in the world that you solve?
Right.
Like, what is the problem you see in the world? First of all, it's the first thing you need to ask. What is the problem you see in the world? And what is the solution to the problem in general? And then what is your unique approach to that, to solving that problem?
Right.
Right. So it's like a three-pronged, and where those circles cross over in the middle, that's where your zone of genius is. Right. So it's how do you, what are your unique set of tools that you use, or unique processes, or even, in the world of thought leadership, it's getting people to see things from a different perspective. So when you come to that point in your business, in your career, that is, and this is going kind of deep into the thought leader personality type, or the thought leader, publicity campaign approach, it would be really to dial into that message, and then how you differentiate yourself from everybody else out there in your space, and then tell that story. So that's the brand storytelling that we do, right? Is what makes you unique, and then really authentic in telling that story, because you want to show up as who and what you are. Like, I'm not trying to be some, Edelman big PR agency, I take a very, creative and hands-on approach, and most agencies don't do that. Like, they want to just cookie cutter it, farm out the articles to somebody else and get as many people in the door. And what we try to do is really customize and have a very a white glove approach to helping our clients put all the pieces together. Not just the book, but it's like, okay, well, now how do we promote the book? Okay, well, now we need, a personal landing page, right? Or a book funnel. So, I take care of all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, now we need copywriting for all that kind of stuff. Okay, now we need an email campaign. So it's all the little details too that, I mean, as you know, as a business owner, you're not only are you doing your thing, you're like in your zone, but you're having to literally acquire skills that most people go to university for 3 years to get.
Right.
Right. Or you're hiring 10 different agencies, but you don't know what you don't know. Like, I how many people I talk to, and they're like, oh yeah, but I don't have this. And, instead of going to it, it's like, you know what, we've got it. We can handle it. We know what you need. And my team becomes an extension of their team. So Absolutely. That's where the bespoke thing comes in, right?
I love that. So talk us through a little bit, Adrienne, about what does a typical PR process look like? What are some of the steps that we should be thinking about that a lot of us don't know?
PR process. Well, like in terms of if you came into the incubator, or in general?
It's in general. What are some of the basic things that we should be thinking about, or should know, that a lot of us don't really know about the PR world, because we all think it's for celebrities and not for business owners?
Yeah. Okay. I know the answer to that. The first thing you want to think about is, well, where is your target market? Right? Okay. Where are they hanging out? Right? And what are the questions that they're asking? What are they searching for? What are they Googling? Who are they? Where are they hanging out? And that'll determine what platforms that you want to amplify yourself on. Okay. So that's step one. So for instance, my clients, some of them have Instagram accounts, but that's not really where they're hanging out, right? My clients are typically LinkedIn people, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's step one. The next thing you want to think about is, what are my latent gifts and talents? Am I a great public speaker? Do I like to write my ideas down? Do I come with video content? Does my business come with video content, or is it more a service-based business, so what are the assets of your business that you can put in the spotlight? And again, this goes back to the book, why the book is such a vital and relevant asset for any business,
right?
Almost any business, because it allows you to create an asset. If you're in a service-based business, to be able to, even as a consultant, I mean, almost more importantly, as a consultant. So nobody wants to listen to you have to have something newsworthy, right? So that's the purpose of creating a media asset, is to create something newsworthy that we can shine the spotlight on, that gives you the floor, right? Gives you a stage to share your knowledge and wisdom, so that the people that you want to reach are going to say, oh my gosh, this person actually has the solution to the problem I didn't even know I had.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's where you really hit the sweet spot. It's like, I didn't even know I had that problem.
Right.
Right.
Like you said, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And so the minute you're able to, I guess, read what it is that your clients need, is almost like, oh my God, she knows me so well.
Yeah. Like, oh, yeah. So, and then the book gives you that it's a huge credibility piece. It's a huge credibility piece. So that's one aspect. So like, if you're somebody who just would never, like my innovators are like this, like my tech guys are like this, or like, oh, I wouldn't want to go on like a speaking stage, or like they're not going to get on YouTube and, build out a social media platform on YouTube. Like that is just not their thing, right? So we have to find creative ways to get them in the spotlight where they still kind of feel comfortable. And actually tech innovators tend to really enjoy speaking. They're great. They're great podcast people, actually, because they want to get into their creative zone and they, share their ideas. So that can be a great medium. So really determining like where your personality is going to fit in different mediums, different platforms, right? And then the next thing you want to really consider is, okay, do I have a proven process? Right? Do I have something that we can focus in on one core message, the problem that you solve, and your unique approach to that problem? So we want to have that. And then what is the call to action? This is a one that I think a lot of creative marketing and, ad sort of creatives just kind of miss. It says like, where are we taking these people? Right? So if they find an article about you and, Business Insider, where are we driving that traffic? And this is where, one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what's the ROI? How do you get measurable results? Like, what are the measurable results with PR?
Right, exactly.
It's a bit of an enigma, right? So measurable results with PR, it's harder to measure. I can put a spotlight on you, but if you don't show up and shine, or if you're not getting results, then, I can't guarantee you sales. It's not like running ads, where the ads, you're going to get so many leads, you're going to close so many leads. But what it does is augment. So if you're going to invest money in ads, as an example, and you're spending thousands of dollars in ads and you're converting at, 7, 8, 10%, which is fairly low. But because you've got no credibility online, somebody Googles your name, the last thing they're going to do before they make a buying decision is Google you.
Yes.
That is a guarantee.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally
have
agree.
An online shopper. Reviews, right? They're going to Google you. Is this person who they say they are? Like they got their credit card in the hand, So you want to be very Googleable, very public and very Googleable. So that's the
Googleable.
So,
that's the word,
Googleable.
right? That's the word.
Yeah. Are you Googleable? Have you Googled yourself lately? So to measure PR is difficult, but we want to. So as somebody who has come out of sales, right? The more credible your product and your company is, the easier it is to close those deals, right? They find you, right? Were they Googling a problem that they have, and your article came up, and you're a celebrity expert in that field who is dominating and even controlling the conversation online, right? So that's the other place we want to get you to, is where you are the dominant disruptor on that subject online. Who's controlling the conversation? I think Russell Brunson said it, like whoever controls the conversation online, like is, or the exact, but you're the king of the industry, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you are saying, people are going to Google you. They're going to kind of do the research, because I'm constantly saying that to my podcasting clients, right? That you got to be able to rank on Google. You got to be on Google. And this is where I feel like podcasters and PR need to come together, right? Because we're on the same wavelength when it comes to that. And we should be, as podcasters and PR, right? And so one of the things I feel like is really missing and people don't talk about at all is PR for your podcast. Because people tend to do it for their business, product launches, services that they're going to be launching, but they tend not to do it for their podcast. And it's so similar. They can totally do it and still get themselves ranked. So tell us a little bit of, about PR for podcasting. And does that look the same compared to everything else?
Yeah, well, I mean, they just go hand in hand. I mean, podcasts, okay, from the podcast to from the PR client to podcast side of things, getting on podcasts is a great way to promote your podcast.
Absolutely.
Get on other podcasts, right? Who have your audience. So there's one, right? And taking your podcast content, like my writer will take this interview and she will repurpose this probably into 2 or 3 articles. Okay. Right. So then there's repurposable content. There's now you've got audio video content you can use as shorts. So those are just like more ways to amplify your story. And I call this, and I will answer your question, I will get there, but I call this like generating the perfect media storm, which is like different outlets, like different platforms. You want different styles of writing, right? You want feature profiles, you want thought leadership interviews, you want contributor, you're the expert, I'm the writer, right? So you as a podcast host are become a platform, right? Where you have other people on and you can play off of their expertise. So you want to, so the thing about podcasting too, is you want to consider, do you want to position yourself as the expert, right? And solve people's problems so that you're hosting the show, solving people's problems, right? Or you the host who's bringing in experts. So you really want to consider those 2 things too. But in terms of promoting your podcast, well, as you'll know this better than anybody else, is when you launch your podcast, the more traction you get out of the gate, the higher your ranking is.
Absolutely.
If you poorly execute a launch and you do not immediately get downloads, ratings, listeners, you will not get amplified by the platforms. Right? The algorithms.
Absolutely.
So the best way to ensure that the algorithm supports your podcast is to come out of the gate like guns blazing, hair on fire. Like that's what you want. And so, right, to like push the launch button, and you want press releases to go out. You already want to have a good foundational press, presence. So you getting featured, your upcoming podcast, it's like a book launch. It's the same thing as a book launch. You want to be on other people's podcasts. You want to feature articles about you in top tier publications. You want interview articles. You want, a press release is great because it goes like multiple press releases over the course of I think it's a 2-week period. It's like really where the hot zone is. Would you agree?
I would say 2 to 4 weeks. Because build up, right? Because we want to do the build up. And then the last 2 weeks is when you kind of go full blown in, right? Like you said, hair on fire, let's do this kind of thing. But no, I totally agree, because I think a lot of podcasters or a lot of businesses are like, oh, let's start a podcast. But they don't think about the launch and, getting the hype up. It's almost like, let's just do the podcast, put it out there, and that's it. And they forget about the entire marketing side of it altogether. And so PR would be perfect. It's absolutely perfect when you're launching a podcast. And this is why you and I are going to be talking a little bit more off camera, because I know my clients need this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind too, PR, like podcasts, like you want to launch, but then it is a long-term investment. The real return comes 6, 9, 12 months down the road, a year down the road, right? It's not like you need time. This isn't, your Facebook ad spend. Like you don't push the button and then take the button finger off and then, expect there to be traction. You've got to invest, be willing to make a commitment in a long-term investment that goes for content creation, and that goes for getting publicity for your business and promoting your business. And it's such a time-consuming endeavor, right? Publicity. I mean, I have 2 full-time staff writers and a publicist we're constantly pitching, looking for opportunities, scraping through the help a reporter outs and, and all those sorts of opportunities. And then things will come randomly in out of the blue. One of my clients was invited to interview for Yahoo Finance because this journalist had seen him on another thing and it was a topic she was covering. And he was like, now he's like the leading celebrity in that space. So she reached out to us and was like, oh, can we interview them? Of course, like that's the whole purpose, right? Is eventually you want inbound opportunities, people wanting, on their TV show because you're the known expert in that niche. So, I don't know if we got off track there, but definitely PR for podcast is super important. One of the agencies in the past that I worked with, we would do regular, like this kind of three-pronged approach to a podcast launch, which would involve at least 3 to 6 interviews on other people's podcasts with a similar audience, press release, profile feature, and at least 2 or 3 like industry specific. Like if you're in health and wellness, for instance, we want to get you on, Well and Good magazine or, Men's Health or whatever, and get you interviewed in some of those health and wellness publications in your niche, right? Where your audience is hanging out. So, that's what I would consider kind of that perfect storm, is this variety of content, variety of writing styles, variety of media platforms.
Absolutely. Now, Adrienne, is this something that you do for people, or is this something you show people how to do? Because I know there's going to be some people that are like, okay, I want to learn how to do it, but then others are like, oh no, I just want it done for me.
Yeah, this isn't a coaching program in the sense that in media, you have to have the Rolodex, it's the connections, right? So I have journalists on my team because they write for the publications that I want to get my clients into.
Fantastic.
Right? So there has to be a relationship there. If you wanted, I have very ambitious entrepreneurs have spent hours and hours and weeks and months pitching themselves to different outlets or on like Haro, for instance. You can DIY it on Haro, but it is exhaustive. Yes. If you really aren't a seasoned writer and don't know how to craft a pitch, good luck to you. Your time is better spent on other things like
absolutely
your sales, right? Getting clients in the door and your deliverables, right? You're as a self-employed or CEO or founder, your efforts should be on revenue and operations, right? And then when you're at a point, and this is, I think we talked about this earlier, but this is kind of a good place to bring up, like, how do you know you're ready?
Yes.
For legit PR, like,
right.
And it's a little bit different for everybody. So I'll unpack, let's say, like 3 different scenarios. So if you're a tech startup, okay, and you have a what's the word I'm looking for? Like your prototype, right? Like you've got a proven product, and you are now looking for first round funding, right? That's a good time to get some personal PR, like about you the innovator, the why your product is unique. So that's a good time to start to lay some foundation on a personal brand level. So the next phase of that would be then the product, right?
Right.
And to target more investors in business and investment publications. So that would be the only time. If you have capital, your initial seed capital, I would definitely invest in some publicity around your personal brand as the founder or innovator of that tech company. Super important. If you have a program, like you're let's say I have one client who's a psychologist. She has developed a really unique process for trauma release. She's actually a sports psychologist, but she's, she wants to be more seen as an author, like a Brene Brown style personality, public figure. She's transitioning. She has a very good day job. It means she can invest in her business program. And she wants to go out of the gate strong. We've got her book developed. Once you've got your proven process, go for it, right? Get some press, launch your program, know who your audience is. If you know who your audience is and you have a way for them to opt in, join your program, how you're going to sell it, how you're going to deliver it, you're ready to deliver, you're ready to birth your business. That's a good time to get some PR.
Yes. Fantastic. Right. I love that. Okay. And the fact that you do it all for your clients is a big weight off your shoulders, because I know I wouldn't want to be doing all of that and learning all of it. It's another full-time job, right? And so you just want to stick to what you're good at, what your skill set is. Like you said, bringing money into the business, right? Yeah. And letting you and your team take care of the rest of the PR. So that's awesome. I love it. Now, I know at this point, Adrienne, people are thinking, oh my goodness, I need to have a conversation with her. I need to know about PR and if she can help me and how we can get this going. So where can they go to connect with you?
Well, you can go to my website, which is just adriennegreenwood.com. Keep it simple, nothing fancy. And you can book a call with me directly right from my homepage. It says book a call. You can book a call right there. That is the best way to reach out to me, is to just book a call.
Fantastic. Awesome. Now, before we have this episode come to an end, is there anything else you would love to let our audience know that maybe we have missed on this episode, something that you're thinking, oh my goodness, they need to know this?
Oh my gosh. The only other thing that we didn't talk about, which is funny because it's the reason so many entrepreneurs reach out to me and they say, I just, this guy over there, he's been seen on his website. It says as seen on NBC and MSN and in Forbes, blah, 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 blah. How come he's getting seen and I'm not getting seen? It's not, listen, this is really important, I think, to understand is don't compare your, what is that expression? Don't compare your step 1 and 2 with somebody else's step 10.
Right.
I'm totally botching this analogy. So that's one thing, right? But the second thing is it didn't happen magically. Okay. They hired a publicist. So don't think that this guy, if you have a competitor out there or a peer in your niche who seems to be getting all the attention, right? But you're but I've been at this so much longer. I'm so much better at it. I have a better solution. I have a better offer. I'm better at what I do. I was working with a surgeon actually out of London. He was a plastic surgeon. And this competitor in his field who is actually terrible at what he does, is getting on talk shows and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm yeah, because he hired a publicist to get him on these things. But this guy has a way better reputation. He has a really unique, non-invasive techniques. He has really innovative techniques, and he has a diehard celebrity client base, by the way, celebrity client base. But this guy's getting all the spotlight. So don't ever be intimidated if you see somebody else in your field who you're this guy's not as credible, but why is he getting all that attention? It's because he's hired somebody to help him get the attention. You can too, right? Don't wait around for you're in leading industry, publication for a journalist to reach out to you and magically think that, you're just suddenly going to become famous. No, you've got to invest in that aspect of your business if you want to build that kind of notability and credibility and visibility. It doesn't happen by itself.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned previously as well, it's a work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight, right? You got to keep at it and you'll start seeing results as time goes on. It could be months, it could be a year, but you will start seeing results in the long term, which is what we're trying to build, right? We're trying to build a legacy, an empire when it comes to our businesses. And so we've got to be in it for the long term. And that's exactly what I say when I talk about podcasting. It's not going to happen overnight. So I just feel like you and I have like very similar synergies as to how this all works for us.
Yeah, because you are in public relations and media, like that's the business you're in. We're in the same business, and the benefits are, I would say, absolutely equal and work perfectly together. And don't underestimate, the last thing I'll say is don't underestimate the power of those as seen on endorsements, right? To have as seen on NBC or as seen on, ABC Money in the UK, those are really credible outlets, and it's perception. Like, what is publicity? What is PR? It's perception. All right. It's public perception. That's what it boils down to. So really public relations is public perception. And you want to be in control of that narrative, right? You design the perception that you want the public to have about you.
Absolutely. I love it. Adrienne, thank you so much for coming onto this show. Oh my goodness, so many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. I love it.
We unpacked the whole suitcase. Maybe we'll do a follow-up and narrow it down. So if you guys have questions or specific things you want us to go more in detail, well, I'd be happy to come back.
Absolutely, definitely. And guys, reach out to Adrienne. Like, she can totally help you, get your product launched, get your business launched, and get yourself out there. She does an amazing job. Sorry?
Get your podcast launched.
Absolutely, right? Get your podcast launched and let's get it out and do PR with it as well. That'd be awesome. Again, thanks so much, Adrienne. And guys, go and check out Adrienne. Go to our website and book a call. Do it right now. Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much. And I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.